Right, welcome everybody to a very special episode where me and none other than Will B are going to be reviewing the London Grand Tournament. So I don't know if you guys know, but the London Grand Tournament was just a small little tournament of, 1,088 players, just the average run-of-the-mill event that goes on in the UK. And me and Will, I think we did all right, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was good effort. Good
Yeah,
effort.
good effort. Maybe room for improvement. Shadow Cup was okay, but it's no longer London Grand Tournament. It's Liam Gets Trophy, right? So, but
Yeah.
without further ado, me and Will have had a phenomenal run at the largest event in the world. And we're pretty stoked, and we're pretty stoked to be able to review it together today to give you guys that kind of insight in terms of our thought process going into the event, after the event, and also some of the kind of like background stuff that goes on in our heads when we're planning for events and looking at our performance over the season. And I don't know if you know this guy, but he's come on leaps and bounds. And Will, so, just for those of you that don't know Will, who are you and why should people care?
Sure. Thanks. I don't know if you should care. So I'm Will. I mostly play Tau, pretty much as a one trick. I've been playing Warhammer for 3 years now, I think. I think I started in the very last 6 months of ninth, um, or something like that, or like the last few months. Like, Desolation Marines had literally just come out. That's all I remember. So there. And since then, I've done okay as Tau. I think at this point, I've just been constantly trying to work my way up and get a bit better at the game, and sort of here I am, I guess.
So you joined the Puretide program pretty much almost like when it started, like over like a year and a bit ago,
Yeah.
year and a half ago, and it's been a real pleasure for me to see your growth. And I think a lot of people in this chat here, and obviously the viewers that are going to be watching on YouTube, want to kind of know, how you've gone from, should we say, A to B. So what have been some of your like kind of highlights in terms of how have you grown as a player in your personal opinion of yourself? Where do you think your biggest learning curve has come from?
Sure, sure. I guess it's probably worth saying that I started playing the game wanting to be competitive at it. That was kind of the goal getting into it, which is not true for most people, I think, who get into the hobby. But yes, in terms of like those curves, we have a good local community here in Gloucestershire, so there's a lot of RTTs and things. So I started going to those. Obviously, I went like 1 and 2 at my first one. Um, Went to an event, managed to go 3 and 2 because my opponent rage quit in round 5 in turn 1 of round 5. So I managed to go from 2 and 2 to 3 and 2. Um, and then won the RTT locally here and kept on this like 3 and 2 trajectory for a while. And then had my first ever 4 and 1, which we actually covered in a video, however long ago that was, where I played against Manny Chima, lost by 6 points, but still managed to go 4 and 1, which was awesome, which was like this sort of breaking through, I feel. That was like that big moment. Um, and then I sort of held on to that for a while, really. Achieved a number of that kind of results throughout the time, even though Tau hasn't necessarily been in the hottest place, at least throughout the last like 12 months. Let's say it sort of
Mm.
peaked, I think, just before Christmas with RETCAD, with the 3 inch deep strike and so on, and then I guess spent most of spring and winter and spring, sorry, quite miserable. And then finally, I guess, culminated into this, which was my best ever result. By a long way.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, just to highlight Will's performance, because obviously those of you who know him, he's a very modest gentleman. And let me give you some absolute numbers that'll blow your brains. So, basically, Will has achieved number one in the UK for the UKTC rankings. He has also placed 17th in the UKTC rankings out of 5,147 players, making the top 20. And England is known for its, should we say, shark tank, so it's no easy feat. And then in terms of the global ITC rankings that are obviously run by GW, previously it was run by Frontline Gaming, and now it's owned by GW. You are sitting 33rd in the world out of 33,298 players in the world, and third position for Tau. Now, I want to add something here, is that I honestly believe that Will would be sitting in pole position for Tau in the world if he'd attended international events, aka LVO. There are two LVOs in this season because the one was in January and one has just happened. And, you know, with travelling and whatnot, Will wasn't able to attend. But if you look at his rankings at the moment, he's only 32 points behind Glenacia and 24 points behind myself. So if Will had travelled and gone to these big events, we'd be chasing Will, not the other way around, right? So I think massive congratulations, buddy. Speaking to you when we did that last review on YouTube when you played Manichima and you went 4-1.
Yeah, Northampton or something. Yeah, something like that.
To see that and then be in a position at LGT after round 5 and when we Top Gun high five and we're like, oh my god, let's go, we're in the shadow round, was an absolute pleasure. And I think a round of applause is needed and you should be extremely proud. I know I am. So well done, buddy. And I think what scares me the most about this is come next season, I'm going to really have to step up my game, buddy, because I think you're going to be kicking ass and taking names. So honestly, mate, congratulations once again.
Thank you. Cheers.
So let's get straight into it then. So the London Grand Tournament. How were you feeling going into this event, knowing that it was now the largest event in the world? What were some of your pre-thoughts? And then obviously we'll go into like your list design and things like that. So what were your pre-thoughts going into this big event?
Yeah, so I was aware of, I guess, the rankings, and I knew that, I think you and I were so close on the UKTC ones that some, you know, fundamentally, whoever, I think you were chasing me technically, but like if you had 5-0 and I had 4-1, you would have had it sort of thing. And I knew that Ross, who was third, wasn't coming because I think he was on his honeymoon. So I was keen for a good result in that sense, but I had been quite turned off Tau for the summer a little. I'd attended 2 events, I think, and I guess I just didn't have the most fun time playing. I just by coincidence, more than anything else. I think the Death Guard and Knights meta was really bleak. And you know, I think I played Oxcad and went 3-2, and I think I played something else and went 3-2, losing to someone I definitely should have beaten, and stuff like that. So I guess I was looking for a good result, but I was a bit like, oh, you know, I don't know where this is going. And I wasn't. And Mont'ka, just for clarity, is like absolutely not my play style by miles. I think before LGT, I had played 11 games of Mont'ka in total, and that wasn't a great feeling because I was a bit like, I'm just going to get, you know, I think going aggressive is like not in me.
So something to add to something you said there, I forgot to mention, obviously, you were predominantly running the Kion build and you were having massive success with that. And obviously, if we look at some of the other Tau players, like take Glenacia, for example, he's been running Kion non-stop and he's got like hundreds of reps with it. And you were in that exact same position in the UKTC with your Kion build. And then there was a massive change to UKTC terrain and the deployment, which hugely neutered Kion's performance. And that probably, I would assume, dampened your spirits with like Tau, right? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, Retcad was a really refreshing change in the Christmas, and it and other things got nerfed back to Kaoyun, no problem. And then losing Sus2 was rough. Getting a new army rule was cool, but I didn't feel that the changes were. I didn't believe they were a buff to Kaoyun. I thought they were probably just on the side of a nerf. And then the UKTC maps changed like 10 days later. And if you've played Kaoyun on UKTC, it's a pretty rough time, in my opinion. So yeah, and the way you could kind of fight out of it with sustain 2, you could like really try and punch up, but it just wasn't there. So yeah, that was pretty much the reasoning. To be honest with you, it just didn't feel like Kaoyun was really that playable. Retcad didn't feel great at the time either. Mont'ka I don't think was playable, and I enjoyed Ox and Mont'ka, but the challenger cards meant they were, in my opinion, pretty bad. And so I felt kind of stuck, I guess, with no good like particularly good Tau options to play. So I played around with Orcscad and stuff like that, but mostly for fun, more than like because I thought it was particularly good.
So with that being said, obviously you had that little bit of a doom and gloom moment, as we all do sometimes when our favourite faction has been hit by semi-nerfs, but then also a big change to our local playground, aka the terrain. So you then obviously settled with going into the Mont'ka with limited reps. And then obviously it sounds like it's a setup here. Oh, you know, I just woke up one morning and thought I'll have a few games with Mont'ka and then I'll just casually go into the shadow round, right? But Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about your list, because obviously
Yeah.
you just talked about that you were a little bit put off and you went into Mont'ka with limited reps, and then you've settled on a list which is controversial, which I love, by the way.
Sure. I
And
didn't
then
realize it was at the
obviously,
time, but yes.
and actually you've done extremely well. So the list, let me just kind of load it up also on
Yeah,
my
I'll do the same.
OBS, and then let's get straight into it. So, Will, your list. I'll read it out, and then you can tell me a little bit about the theory behind it. So, fit check for my Napalm era. There's a
Let's
list named
go.
Shadowsun. Firesight marksman team with strike swiftly for the 2 units that you can give the scout move 6 to. A war shaper with the strategic conqueror, and obviously he can be used for a free strat essentially if he's targeted as part of a multi kind of targeting strat, aka the extra AP. You've got 30 Pathfinders, 2 of them with grab, 1 with recon, and obviously all the Pathfinders are armed with the extra bits like the ion rifles. You've got a Vespid team for Uppy Downy, and obviously they can be killed and contribute to pinpoint accuracy stratagem for 4 rolls to hit. A Recruit Hound unit, OC0, but can become OC1 with the Warshaper, and then additionally can have an extra OC with the Strat Conqueror. You've gone with the 3 broadsides with all missiles and smart missiles and weapon support systems, so click button, insert missile here. You've got a Ghost Kill for low-not shenanigans with Iron Raker, Twin Fusion. Then you've got 2 Iron Hammerheads with Seekers and smart missiles, and then 2 Riptides with Ion Accelerators, the Missile Pods, and the Twin Plasma Rifle, rather than going extra SMS. And then the 2 Devilfish with SMS and Seekers. So not a single stealth suit in sight, Will. So what were you smoking that evening when you created that list? Or tell us a bit about the visionary part of Will that made this list.
So this was a love child of a conversation with Tony Barrett, actually.
Yeah.
He really loves Mont'ka and has been playing it forever. And it's like plays Tower the opposite way to me, really. So yeah, sure. The stealth battlesuit issue. So my thinking was that I would play this list as like breakneck aggressively as humanly possible. And it is hard, I think, when I talk to people to realize that people don't quite realize how unfathomably aggressive it went. And because of that, the stealth suits would never have line of sight into my opponent's deployment zone, which is where I was every single game. And so my thinking was like, what am I going to do with that unit to make it have this line of sight? And the longer the game goes on, the more value you get from the guiding units like that. But I was trying to end the game as quickly as possible. And so I figured, my thinking was, does this unit end the game quicker? And I came to the conclusion that maybe not as much as other units did in that list. So I'd be happy to put them in. I'm not against stealth suits at all. I think they're great. I think they can absolutely work because you can obviously infiltrate them, advance them forward, get these lines of sight, and so on. So, absolutely would put it in. But given the list has access to rerolls, very easy. Well, Mont'ka has access to rerolls. Shadow Sun exists. A lot of Twin Linked going on here. I just came to the conclusion that I would rather have something else for 80 points. And there's not much to trim. You could obviously start tweaking things around, but at that point you start losing units. You could obviously drop the Krutox Riders and the Krut Hounds and just have 85 points, and voila, you have a stealth team. But that I felt would inhibit me even more so if I went slower, because I'd have less units to flip people off primary and so on, which is part of the strategy. So yeah, that was the list really. But it went, yeah. I just wanted it to go as unbelievably aggressively as possible. That was the entire plan. So I would have units in my opponent's deployment zone turn 1. I would trade down for pressure, happily losing all Pathfinders turn 1 every game. I'd lose a Devilfish turn 1. I'd probably lose the Ghost Kill turn 1, and then they would concede turn 2. And that would be that was the thinking anyway. That was
and obviously apologies, I actually forgot to mention your Crew Carnivores and your Krutox Rider. Shame on me. Shame on me.
How dare you?
How dare me? So yeah, I thoroughly understood. I was also talking to Tony, and we've been chatting a little bit about the no need stealth suits, bro. Full rerolls to hit, and Shadow Sun gives me reroll 1s, so I just fish for lethal, so I don't need the reroll 1s to wound. And arguably the maths are actually probably more in your favour for reroll in the hits rather than relying on reroll ones to wounds.
Yes.
So because you're fishing for the lethals. So
Yep.
the other thing that I really liked hearing you talk about the list is this need for speed, the need for aggression, and the lack of fear when it comes to losing your units early. Because the way that Mont'ka works, in my opinion, and obviously you will echo this, having done very well with it, is that you need to not be afraid to lose units because you speculate to accumulate. I lose this piece and this piece, but you're going to lose 4 pieces because it's taken you 4 pieces to down these 2 pieces, and now I pick up the 4, and you keep rinsing and repeating, and then the game's just done. And you're not allowing your opponent to stage and kind of like get into these little pockets to attack you. You're just like, I'm full sending it, bro. Let's go. The game's now done by the end of turn 3, and whatever's left is going to be killed by stuff that I've got. So clearly that has been part of your main battle plan, and your list has been designed around that. So brilliant. Now, in terms of my list that I took to LGT, it was pretty much the 21 suits and the 6 commanders and the 50 infantry. So just as a recap, I know a lot of you in this Discord will already know this, but for the people watching on YouTube, Farsight, Cold Star ×3, all armed. 2 of them are armed with 4 fusions, 2 shield drones. 1 guy's got a cyclic gun drone, shield drone, high output burst, 2 burst cannons, because I do not like killing myself to hazardous, and I'd like 3 attempts to not die, please. And then I've got an enforcer with uppy downy, star flare, 3 plasmas, cyclic, marker drone, shield drone, uppy downy on him. An enforcer with 4 missile pods, marker drone, shield drone. 50 infantry. 1 is a strike team. I've got 10 crew, 30 Pathfinders, same as Will's, so 2 grab, 1 recon, because I was expecting a combat meta, especially with like World Eaters, Orcs, that kind of thing, EC. 2 finite teams, 1 all with missiles, 1 all with plasmas, a Star Scythe Burst, a Star Scythe Flamer, 3 Sunforge, like I said, crew and 30 Pathfinders, and 2 Stealth. So this is something, unlike Will, I had a lot of reps with, and I felt that the stars aligned for me in terms of big knights, big chunk going away, more spread out meta. So this list perfectly had all the tools for me to perform, and like I said, I had the reps. So at this big prestigious event, which is the largest in the world, I wasn't fucking around. I was like, right, I'm just taking the thing that I know and I'll run it. And obviously, I made the shadow cut with Will. Ended up losing to Innes Wilson. There was only 2 matchups that I was fearing because it was a rock, paper, scissors. Was Will with his Mont'ka, because unfortunately on round 6, it was bloody Terraform. And Terraform is whoever goes first wins game, essentially. Because you can just terraform early, get the points, etc., etc. And I played Innes, losing to Innes's Stormlands, and then obviously you played Liam VSL in round 7, and lost to Liam VSL. So we've literally only been taken down by 2 giants. So, like, I would class this as maybe 2 tiny sharks going in, and there's these massive fucking huge sharks that are like, hi, but we've made it. So, what we'll do now is we're not going to spend too much time going through all the specifics of every single round because we'd be here forever. But let's get a brief overview of your round 1, because obviously round 1's a little bit of a nervous one, isn't it? Because you're going in, it's the first round, getting warmed up, and you're like, please, please, please don't have a hard round 1. I want to just kind of relax into it and then go. So what was your round 1? Let me load up the pairings. Who you were going, what army were you going against?
I was Drakari, Sky Splinter Assault. I wasn't too worried in that, although they were lovely, they weren't sort of like a veteran tournament goer, and there is nowhere to hide on that map for the Drakari transports. So, had it been like Skari playing that list, I think I would have been more anxious because it had loads of ways to flip me off of OC. I was on table 328, by the way.
328.
328, yeah.
Ah, there we go. Thank you. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's much point going through the list, but like, it just has tons of things that can flip OC. Like, just I don't know, it's like 60 OC2 models or something like that, and just loads of transports to shuttle it all out. Something like,
Yeah, it's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 raiders, 2 venoms, loads of dudes, 3 ravagers. Jesus. Okay, yeah. So it's transports and dudes.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly good against me. I can indirect the Scourges if he leaves them on the board, and if he doesn't, they get one activation before they get indirected. And there's basically nowhere to hide on that map for those long vehicles. So the game was sort of routine in that sense. Like, it was a lovely game, but I'm just able to find lines and pick units up from across the map, and it was a sort of nice way to start the event, really, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, so nice way to start for you, and it was 100, I assume.
Yeah, 100, and I think he got something 40 or
48.
48 or something like that. Um, so yeah, no complaints there.
And obviously so against Drakari, if we just kind of like really simple in our round by round pairings, what's the biggest advice you give against for Tau going into Drakari?
I actually have no idea what that army does still, I swear. It's actually insane. Um, I mean, yeah, I think like actually knowing, no, understanding their output is really, really important. So like Lilith and like her friends will not kill a Riptide, but they will shred, like, in theory, 30 Pathfinders in one activation, and they really, really have to go into the right thing, way more so than you, because they're obviously made of paper. So just be aware of what they want to go into and try and play around that. And then if you can kill the transports, do, especially Sky Splinter Assault. And I was willing to trade down a bit, but there is a certain level of like respect for like Dark Lances that are just insane at D6 plus 2 damage. So, but yeah, honestly, I'm probably not the person to talk to about Drakari. It's still an army that just really, really confuses me. I need to actually play it. I think it's one of those armies I need to put on the table and play as to probably get a good understanding of it, because it's very strange.
Yeah, I think you touched on something that was really important as well. The SMS really help you into that because of the indirect
Yeah.
versus the shoot and scoot scourges. So solid win for you, and sitting on 100 points. Now for me, I went into Custodes. Liam from Vanguard Tactics. He's been out of the scene a little bit, but I didn't know of the name, and I didn't have, I suppose, on paper, an easy matchup because it was Lions of the Emperor Custodes, and they have lots of tools that normal Custodes don't have. But he had the 3 Warden bricks, the 3 Blade Champions, a big 6-man Terminator, some chaff like some Witch Seekers, some Prosecutors, a Caladius, 2 bikes with Bike Captain, and was basically just saying, hey, I've got Chonk, and I've got durability, and I've also got a reactive move after you shoot me, all that kind of stuff. So I was a little bit like, ooh, if this goes first, he could full yeet at me. But at the end of the day, I can play for the late game. I've got all the right profiles, and I was just very cognitive in terms of positioning correctly, staying outside of charge radius where possible, but offering poor trades in terms of, here, have my infantry, don't really care. I'm just going to hit you turn after turn with suits, and more suits, and more suits, and more suits. And I ended up going first, which was huge for me. Basically terraformed early, pushed up. He really couldn't do anything. He was like, even if I come out, I kill some dudes, and then I might connect with a crisis team at some point when you allow me to, and then I basically played all the flanks rather than the centre, leaving the centre alone, and then just yeeting around the flanks and attacking his home field, and that pulled me into I think it was 98 to 457. So 2 points behind you, Will. I'm hot on your heels. Let's go into round 2. So I'll kick this one off with round 2, and then we'll go on to yours.
Yeah.
So my round 2, what a lovely fella. I played Warmaster Will, and he was running AdMech. And I was like, okay, so what mission is round 2? Purge the foe. What do
Nice.
AdMech have a lot of? Dudes. Perfect. So this was straight up a solid win for me, and even Will knew it. He was running a slightly different list. I would have expected more Las Chickens, but in short, he had Cole, the new character that's had a glow up, and no deep strike within 12 techno archaeologists. I can't even say that. That dude with a 12-inch no-go. Rangers, 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 Skystalkers, Skystalkers, Servitor Battle Clade for 60 points, 2 of those. Infiltrators, Infiltrators, Ruststalkers, Ruststalkers, Disintegrator, Disintegrator, Disintegrator. Now, this is the different part. Rather than taking the Las Chickens, he took the Dragoons with the Taser Lances. So 2 units of 3 of those. Essentially, this game came down to, if I go second, I play for the late game. If I go first, I do a very similar mechanic that you do, and I just push, and I just shoot everything I possibly can, get rid of all of his battle line units or his small pieces, because a lot of the buffs with AdMech are centered around their battle line units. So, for example, Skystalkers, they can fire and fade, but if they end within 6 inches, wholly within 6 inches of a battle line unit, they can go 12. So killing their battle line units is essential, and that's pretty much what I focused on. Killing that crap, getting rid of all of their trading pieces, screening them, and then blasting them and firing and fading. So that was quite an easy win for me, and it was perfectly aligned with the fact that we're playing on Purge the Foe. So that puts me in a solid 2-0. What about you, Will? What were you paired into?
Imperial agents.
Are they a real army?
I don't know. So I was against Jacob Wells, who plays for Carnage. He finished the season 90th in the UK, and he is rank 1 Imperial Agents.
Ah.
So I saw it and I thought this is a joke, and then I obviously actually had to reconsider my analysis of this game. I have no idea what this army does or did. I tried to understand it from him, and I was very confused. Similar to you, it was Purge the Foe, which meant that I could kind of just cleave units in half and go from there, and it was quite easy. We had all of my opponents were truly delightful, so we had a really lovely game. But I was able to kind of figure out what's actually going to kill me and what's going to take me off objectives, and prioritized appropriately. And naturally, my profiles into him are really important. Really nice. The key thing to remember here, I guess, is that Pathfinders do work into the 10-mans where other units do less good work, so keeping them safer is actually slightly more important. I was less likely to give 30 Pathfinders to my opponent turn 1. So we had a very good game, but Purge really helped, because there's just so much stuff in that army. And none of it does anything, which is also really weird.
Yeah, like I was looking at the list here, and the only one thing I know, and I know I've done like here's a little bit of a plug. I know I've done the faction focus stuff. I'll be honest. When I was doing all the faction focus stuff, that's available for Pathfinder and above. If you want to join, click on the link below. YouTube, blah 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 blah. But the key thing that I was doing with Imperial Agents, I was like, I can only really spot like one thing here. It's the fact that their rogue trader unit is 15 man strong. If it wins a defender roll off,
Yes.
it will infiltrate across the board. Whoa, my camera's gone straight in close. Let me just stop that.
Oh, it has. Woo!
And so basically, yeah, you just like have to screen that out somehow. Oh, it's done again anyway. I'll sort that out in a second. So yeah, what were some of the other tricks that maybe you became aware of?
Sure. Yeah, so he had something like 3 massive infiltrating units, and then he could redeploy like D3 units, or it was something weird like that. So he infiltrated, he got first drop, which sucked, and he infiltrated across the entire map, and then he did another infiltrate in like a tactical spot, another infiltrate in a tactical safe spot. But because it was only D3 redeploys, I think, he couldn't play on the assumption he had multiple. He had to assume he had one. So he ended up redeploying the thing that was across all the middle, which was probably like the one mistake, but in deployment, that he then put it back somewhere safe, which gave me a very slight angle to scout a little bit further forward. I could gain a little bit of momentum. So that was cool. And I said to him afterwards, I was like, all you probably need to do was actually just suicide a unit. But again, it was Purge. So all I would have done is probably just hid, picked up 4 points and gone, cool, I'm 4 points ahead.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. And I've got indirect, he doesn't. So I will just eventually gain something from that. But that was cool. So that was really spooky. And then he has like loads of battle shock based tricks. I can't remember how exactly it works, to be honest with you, but it's like if you're near him at the end of whenever, it can battle shock you and stuff like that. But there's not too much to say, but mostly because I don't really understand how Imperial Agents work still.
Yeah, I don't think.
But it was one of those really weird. It's a horrible feeling playing against an army you do not understand. And I remember having this about a year ago. I made one of the ways I went about getting better was I just played every single army. Admittedly, I neglected AdMech and Imperial Agents at the time. But one of the big ones for me was T-Suns, because I just did not understand how that army worked. And it seemed that it could do everything and anything and pick up everything in the game. And I remember like playing it. I played it like 5 or 6 games, and I was like, okay, I understand. And I've never lost since to them, because once it puzzles together and like the mystification leaves, it can be really helpful. So I probably put AdMech on the table, but that's for the future. But yeah, maybe not Imperial Agents, but it's very useful to know what an army does. And to stop that fear of like, what is this unit?
I'd echo that because I'd also fear going into something that is unknown. And I think the one thing that probably pulled you through, forget saying, oh, it's Purge, because obviously he's got loads of stuff and you can easily capitalize that, but so can he in terms of the holding more and obviously being able to
Yes.
trade for trade. But I think in order to go against something that you don't understand, you need to fall back on your basic fundamental plan that you've created for your army and just stick to playing your plan and try to be aware of the stuff that happens in front of you and not falling for it. Try to identify the gotchas early so then you can just play your game and not be too fearful. So you pulled out, is it 95-80 or something like that, was it?
95-80, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those sort
Okay.
of inevitable things once you've got momentum, but yeah.
So we go into round 3,
Mm.
the last round of the first day. And you, for some reason, when I put Will B, it doesn't actually find you. I just
No, it
have to put
hates
Will.
it.
It
Yeah,
hates it.
yeah.
So you were going into Tobias. I'm going to call him Tobias because I'm not going to try and
Yeah,
butcher his name.
I think he's like part. He's German. I think he plays. I can't know if he plays for the WTC German team or is one of the applicants or something. But he travelled down here with a bunch of people from Germany
And he
to
was
play.
running Angelic Inheritors, so Dante, Sanguinor,
Yes.
Triple Captain with jump packs, Lieutenant Combi Weapon with the Ordained Sacrifice, Tech Marine, Intercessors for Sticky, Devastator. Wow, okay, I haven't seen a Devastator
I
squad in
know.
years.
I know.
Sangard, Scout Squad, 5 Vanguard Vets with Storm Shields, Bald Predator. Oh, that's a bitch to deal with infantry because it can advance and shoot
Yeah.
infantry. Storm Speeder, Hammer Strike, Vindicator. So what was the mission again on round 3? It was
Hidden supplies.
hidden supplies. Yeah. So thoughts going into this, Will?
So I won't lie to you. I have never lost to inheritors in my life. We
Mm-hmm.
have like the best. I feel like our profiles into that army are absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And then I saw he had devastators, and just like you, I was like, lol. And then I thought usually the kind of armies that scare me or have the potential to scare me are when they're full melee, so they can full send and overwhelm. Whereas I saw he had 4 ranged units, so 2 Vindicators, the Bar, I guess, and the Hammer Strike and the Devs actually, so 5. And I thought, fantastic, like this is quite breezy. And I was in fact wrong. I was quite wrong, which I was surprised about. So yeah, it did not go well at all. Partly due to hidden supplies, admittedly. But this was one of those games where so he got zeros on primary every single turn, except 15 on the last turn.
Yeah.
And I got 5, 5, and then I got a very, very cheeky 15 in the middle of round 4, which was just one of those like moments of I identified that it wasn't going well. I couldn't really understand why it wasn't going well, but ironically, it was the combination of the shooting elements with the melee. So I kind of just launched loads of units onto as many objectives as possible, with the Vespid able to rapid ingress to get 5. And he accounted for everything to drop me down. Didn't need to go on an objective because he didn't want to expose a unit. The rapid ingress came, which not only meant that I held 2, but because he hadn't bothered going on 1, he wasn't going to. He would hold 2 and I would hold 3. And although the score was 14 points, like that was ultimately like a 10-point swing, which forced his hand in later turns. But yeah, this was a lot rougher than I had anticipated it being, to be honest with you. It was just really, yeah, it was hard. Weirdly. So yeah, but hidden supplies is not my favorite.
Hidden supplies is a weird one, right? And obviously, hidden supplies for me is one of the missions that I'm like licking my lips for. I'm like, ho 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 ho, because I've got a lot of deep strikes and I can pressure the primary, whereas you don't have that in yours. And with hidden supplies being practically 2 of the center ones, if you go there, you die. And if you go onto your expansions, you've got a thin line of the wall which you can be charged because you are not 1.1 away, you are literally right up against the wall. And obviously with Blood Angels, they'll be able to charge you, so holding primaries is trickier for you. And did you go first or second in that game?
I went first,
Right.
which
So
I think I killed the Predator turn 1.
okay.
But it meant because of the Overwatch, I couldn't put Pathfinders out to kill infantry. So I couldn't properly Alpha Strike despite going first. If the Bolt Predator had been not Flamers,
Yes.
he would have been 20-0'd.
Yeah.
It's just that I couldn't hit him with Pathfinders. But what I did do is he never got a single model on my expansion the entire game.
Yeah.
So I just knew that was the win condition from deployment, and I stacked that objective. I put a Devilfish, 20 Pathfinders on it, and a Ghost Kill turn 1. And I was like, you will not take me off my secure. And I never. It was 5. And once I cleared out the units that could get there,
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I guess, what I meant when I was like, sometimes that like level of aggression is like, here I've got 20 Pathfinders in the open and a Devilfish, but there's nothing to worry about. Like, what could possibly go wrong? Like, when you actually put it out on paper, there is nothing that's killing that in his army. Like turn 1 or turn 1. It's just not happening. The Devilfish is like on the good side, right? So he's charging the fish to get to the Pathfinder.
Yeah. Again, and you're saying you put a Ghost Kill on there as well, right?
Yeah, I think the Ghost Kill was towing, shooting the Pred. The Riptide I auto-sixed up the thing, and then between a Firesight Marksman's Guide, the Ghost Kill, and the Riptide, they lasered the Bull Predator away. I think is how I remember that game going. And then I had to deal with Vindicators, but I don't care. Short range.
Short range, 24 inches. You can outrange it. Yeah.
And then I kill it back, so it's like it's fine. He has to put 2 of them in to kill a Riptide. So anyway, yeah, but it was an interesting, like, it's one of those moments where these things you watch players do sometimes, like against you, where they'll be like, cool, I'm going to put 4 units on this objective, over to you. And you're like, what? I've never thought about doing that. I've always just like towed on with a Devilfish to try and be all elegant. And like, I've got my little 2 OC. And I was like, 4, here it is, 23 OC, brother. Let's go.
Wait, I imagine your expansion objective was the Strat Conqueror, so if you...
No, so this was critical. Kroot Hounds, OC2, flip his primary.
Yeah, so you chose his expansion. Yes, buddy.
Devilfish, OC3, flips primary. Pathfinders come out, OC10, OC20, flip primary. And that was the win con. He will never hold his secure. I will always hold my secure. I will be 20 points up.
Smart.
And then
regardless,
that's why the Shaper was so important in that element of the list for that specific like interaction. If you drop the Hounds, you drop the Shaper. If you drop the Shaper, you drop the Hounds. They kind of handshake. But yeah,
nice.
Replace it obviously with something else.
So denying his, holding yours with an absurd amount of bodies, like it, and being very aggressive and be like, what are you going to do, bro? What are you going to do? Let's go. So, okay, I like the fact that the admittance of, like, I thought on paper, because I think exactly like you, but like, if you're going to do melee, go full on melee. Don't try and become a shooting army. A little bit like Tau, where that's the struggle with auxiliary. Don't try and be a melee army, still be a shooting army, but have maybe one element of combat. And when you look at it on paper and go, oh, he's littered it with so much shooting, and then you admitted, like, actually it worked, and it was a struggle, but you managed to get that cheeky 15 to combat his, and then holding onto your expansion and denying his was essentially the win condition of this game.
It was, yeah. And he has no advance and charge, and he has only the lone op character unit, so you can rapid ingress, lone op it, move 12 and charge. That's the gotcha.
Yeah.
So as long as you account for those 2 things in Inheritors, you're meant to be having a good time, but apparently not so much.
So in terms of my round 3, I was going against a lovely person that I played before, Matthew Reed, and he turned up to the table and was like, I'm gonna give you a game this time. I'm not gonna get bummed in 10 minutes. And I was like, excellent, let's go. And he was running Black Templars, and his list is essentially, I think, too chunky. I did talk to him afterwards. I think he could have cut something to put in a bit more scoring in there. But essentially, it's triple Castellan, double Marshal, Lieutenant Combi Weapon, Empress Champion, and the Castellans can go with the Marshals in the units of Sword Brethren, Assault Intercessors, an Intercessor Squad, an Infiltrator Squad, 5 Sword Brethren, 4 Sword Brethren, an Impulsor, and then 3 Repulsor Executioners. And this detachment is the Gladius Task Force, because it's the Mario Kart of Marine detachments. It gives them absolutely everything. It's well balanced. And my thought process was, Rep X's, okay, look, their toughness 12, 16 wounds, but they don't have an invuln, and my Sunforge will just melt it. And the thing about the Rep X's is that they can take, they're a transport essentially as well. So the Sword Brethren are going to go in the Rep X, and then obviously the Emperor's Champion's going to go with the Assault Intercessors in the Impulsor, and then he's just going to have some units, and the Combi Lieutenant is going to do his thing. But with Hidden Supplies, he can't be everywhere, and I just kept enough units in reserve to be like, and the win condition for me here was actually the opposite of what you did, where you put everything on your objective and went, you ain't getting this, son. I put nothing and went, you ain't getting this, son, but I am. And he was like, and he didn't know this, and then when it happened, he was like, can you just not? And I went, what do you mean? He went, can you just not? And I was like, well, I'm not putting my Pathfinders in charging range, so you can't get to my expansion. And then I'm just going to watch you make the decision of, do you push out and do nothing and then get tabled, or do you stay there and then I rapid ingress, get my primary, and then table you? And that's essentially what I did throughout the game. And when he realised it, there was nothing much he could do. And I think a couple of crucial moments where I just, for example, noticed on his expansion, he'd met... Why does my camera keep doing this? It's really frustrating.
It is really weird.
It's because I talk with my hands, and then when I move my hands near my camera, it picks it up and zooms in. But anyway, entertainment value right there. My big giant head. So basically, I
can do the same if you want. I can just like lean forward, just feel like make you feel less uncomfortable.
All right, my camera should be coming back, and I'm going to keep my hands firmly on my knees so that I don't do that again. So
2 minutes at last.
Yeah, it'll last 2 minutes, and then it'll be done again. So basically, with that, it cracks me up every time. All right. Anyway, so noticing that he couldn't put a lot of OC on his expansion, my crisis suits being OC2 each, meant that when I 6-inch deep strike, if he doesn't cover the objective completely, I can sneak a couple of Sunforge on there. And I separated Farsight and put him with a different unit. I think I put him with the Flamers because I just wanted some extra anti-infantry clearing. And what I was able to do is just 6-inch Sunforge and go, I've got OC4 on there, more than you, denied your primary, and effectively did the same. I put him all to 5s. Zeros, sorry. He didn't get any primary.
Hidden supplies, nothing.
Hidden supplies, and I obviously got the, I can't remember what score I got, but essentially it was, you can't get to me, I've got enough screens, I will kill you, you're getting 0 primary, and I'm going to get all the primary with rapid ingressing, and then obviously the end game when there's nothing left. So it was a rough game. We got to about turn 3.5, and he was like, I'd like to kind of call it a night, if you will. I was like, all right, Matthew. He was like, I think I might have got more points from you versus last time, but he was such a lovely guy, and he just realised afterwards, he's like, what could I have done differently? I said, nothing. There's absolutely nothing you could have done in terms of your gameplay, apart from if you've noticed that your list isn't well equipped, just put everything on the line and hope to go first. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive because if you don't go first, you get tabled, but you're going to get tabled anyway. But then I talked to him about dropping like one of the rep X's because it's 220 points and getting in more stuff like scouts. Just more chaff pieces to trade with Gladius. You can be annoying with reactive moves. But overall, it was a solid win for me. So with both of us, I've gone 3-0 after day one. Time to unwind, go for food, chill, have drinks, and then fret over round day 2. Yeah. So, on to the next day. We'll start with yourself. Your next pairing was...
Admech. Cohort Cybernetica, a Team Iceland player. And I was like, no idea what this army does. I messaged my friend Jack Pugh. I was like, Jack, what is this army? And he was like, this is a stat checklist. The idea is that it's so tanky that you can't kill it, and then it kind of overwhelms you, which was a surprise. I was like, okay, because I'm Mont'ka, so I've never been stat checked before in my life. Well, people have tried, obviously, with Warden bricks, and it will never work. But yeah, it's tons of really tanky things. He can give 2 of his vehicles 5-up Feel No Pain. He has a blank, like the Ironstorm Enhancement blank. The Castellan robots will be 2-up. So 2-up, 5-up T10 with however many wounds each. It's great. So I assumed that I would survive the stat check and not give a damn, really. So I sent 2 Riptides, a Ghost Kill, a Pathfinder unit, and Shadow Sun into the Castellan robots, and I killed a single model. And I passed the turn. And I was like, this is how it ends, boys. This is how it ends. It was absolutely miserable. It's one of the rare moments where a stealth team would have been great, have to say.
Okay.
Because obviously the reroll 1s to wound would have just been that little bit more going through. But yeah, so it was really miserable. He picked up the Ghost Kill, the 10 Pathfinders, he got a Lucky Grenades and killed Shadow Sun, and he shot and killed a Riptide. And I was like, I am cooked. I am so cooked. And I've never been in this position before, because as I said, I've played not that many games of Mont'ka, and basically every game was just me being aggressive, picking up their army, them conceding, except for games where they go first, and then it becomes like a really nice five round tactical game. This was the opposite, really, and was miserable. So I had to do a real big breather and really figure out how to resolve this. And in order to deal with me launching up my top flank and basically putting everything there, he had to do the same. And his army is slower than mine, obviously, because everything's slower than Mont'ka. But that is what he had committed to. And so everywhere else was kind of like chaff. So I just hunted chaff all game.
Smart.
So instead of killing the big important units that can kill me, I was like, you go ahead and kill me, but I will be kiting you, cutting and running, and killing literally everything else. And so it's the only game of Mont'ka I've ever played, except for I guess against Liam, where like I have just been outkilled, like grossly outkilled by his army. But instead of just cut and run, and we had a really fun game, and he kind of realized like turn 3, he was like, I don't have like a unit to take your devilfish off your secure. And I was like, woo! And then in the middle was like a Crutox Rider, a Pathfinder, and like the War Shaper or something. And he was like, I actually can't take you off this objective. I was like, this is what I love to hear. So like that's how I won that game, and it was a gross miscalculation. I think someone did the maths for me, and I think statistically speaking, like I meant to kill like 2.5 of them. But he blanked a Riptide damage of 4, and stuff, and like it just didn't go through. And one of them was wounded, but like not enough. So yeah, it was a really interesting having to like cut and change tactic mid game. But yes, so that was a really cool game, but quite like a shock to the system, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it just hasn't happened. I've never not killed. And he deployed like completely in the open. I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. Gone first. Walla walla walla. Another 20-0. 2 hours and 40 minutes later, like sweat pouring down my head.
It's like that meme of that kid that's going, "Are you telling me that I can't kill it all?" They're like going, "Try." And you're like, "That's bait. I'm gonna go for it anyway." Oh crap, you were right.
Yeah, it
Shit.
was crazy. Like it was awful, to be honest. So yeah, I think what happened was I put like the Riptides with the plus AP didn't do any damage.
So that game was Crucible of Battle and Linchpin. So
yes,
I ended up going in. So that score was 100 to 70, but purely because you decided to go, okay, I learned it didn't work, go hunt down chaff, and hunt is scoring basically, and you were able to get the points that way rather than on killing.
Yeah, and there's 23 points difference between our primaries, him and I.
Yeah,
which is insane. But that is because in the middle I had 3 units, and he was like, I can't actually stop this, and that was also the objective I plus OC'd.
Excellent.
So just yeah.
So that Strat Conqueror paying dividends.
Oh yes.
So I ended up going into Mark Pocock, a Team England player, with his Raven Guard. Mom, it's not a phase, emo for days, and he was running the Shadow Mark with a slight little bit of a twist. He's gone with Ethan Shawn, Caven Trike, Lieutenant with Combo Weapon with the Vectora. He's got Assault JPIs ×3, 2 3-man Blade Guards, Centurion 6-man, a Centurion 3-man, 3 Redemptor Dreads, and Vanguard Vets for Unit 10. So this game was good for me because of the deployment, because I can use my screens to stop him coming in and cutting the angles and shooting my valuable pieces. And my plan was basically like, okay, that combat lieutenant's going to be annoying. I cannot have him in the center of the board because that guy in the center of the board makes my CP strained, and then also just can keep hopping behind the wall if I want to interact with him. So I won the defender roll off and I placed my Pathfinders in the center of the board and went, how about no?
Yeah.
He deployed him on his expansion objective, and I planned something. This is like the crucial thing where I think my tactical planning paid dividends, because I knew the raw tactics of what he was trying to do. and I actually planned going second with clever CP usage for what I wanted to do to the Combat Lieutenant. I ended up going second, which is huge on Linchpin, and with the fact that I can easily contest his expansion objective with Fire and Fade mechanics and OC, and also attack his home field, I was feeling pretty comfortable. So screened out the Centurion Devastator. It's pretty much all game with my infantry screens. And when he didn't move his Combat Lieutenant, kept it in like just tiptoeing on this expansion to be able to react to move back behind the wall near his deployment. I deployed my Burst Star Scythe unit, so with an average advance of a 3, I can get 2 dudes and a Cold Star to shoot him, and I was guiding by my strike team all the way down the other side of the board. Statistically, even with OC, I killed that guy. Did I kill that guy? No. I left that guy on 1 wound. I was like, that's annoying. Spent 2 CP, Fire and Faded to safety, and then he takes a risk by he wants his CP for other stuff and doesn't auto pass the guy and fails it. So I was like, get in, have 3 points. So what ended up happening though, there was a really good sportsmanship play on both of us throughout the game. One of them was I dropped in a flamer suit to flame his blade guard that were holding his home field. And then the normal play, fire and fade those flamers onto his home field and go, how about no primary? He rapid ingressed his JPIs, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I fire and faded expecting the JPIs to be OC1. But actually, with Cave and Shrike, all JPIs are OC2, and it doesn't have any rule to say whilst Cave and Shrike is on the battlefield. It's just, if you take them in the list and have Cave and Shrike in your list, they're OC2. So he'd done that, and I fire and faded my flamer suits on there, and I said, oh, okay, well, he was like, I'm OC2. I went, why don't I know that? And he was like, I think I told you. And I was like, I don't know. You probably did, but maybe I forgot. And he was like, I was like, can I just take back that fire and fade and just go over there and be killed anyway? And then fire and fade another. He was like, go on then. I was like, no problem. And then there was a thing, a reactor move that he did in another turn when I said, do you really want to react to move that? Because I can potentially just take your expansion. And he went, oh, do you mind if I was like, no, no problem. So I love playing Mark. It was a great game, but inevitably, because I went second and I had so much stuff, he couldn't chew through it. And the Vanguard vets just died to my missile finite team. And eventually that's what got them. I just went, cool, you're finally committed. Now you die. And then the game ended. I think it was something like, let me just load it up, 79 to 59. So I will say that if he'd have gone with the traditional build with the Inceptors, the 6-man, the 3-man, 2 Bolter squads, it'd have been a little bit of a harder game. But it was the first time I was going into Raven Guard, so I was a little bit nervous because I'd done the research, clearly not about JPIs. But I do feel comfortable going into Raven Guard on that particular layout. So I think it is still going to be a problem in the meta now that there's +1 to wound, because in LGT they didn't have +1 to wound, but now they do. But that's a story for a different day. So we are both going into the final round. Final round-ish of round 5, and you were paired into what?
World Eaters, Berserker Warband, Sam Dickinson, rank 1 World Eaters.
Oh, Sam Dickinson, yeah, another Team England applicant, I think. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. So this was, he was over the moon to be 4-0, as was I, because it meant the 4-1 is guaranteed at LGT. I think it meant that he guarantees rank 1 World Eaters or something like that. He'd done the maths, and so he was over the moon to be there. And obviously I was very happy too, but I kind of 4-1 was the goal at LGT, and it was nice to have it. But yeah. So my list had a tech piece into the 20 Zerkers, which is the 3-man missile sides, and I knew that how the game has to look on the turn 2 or 3 is it has to be the case that one of my units shoots the Khorne Berserkers, and the only thing they can surge into is the missile sides. And I have to have reroll hits on them for that to be true. They're the 2 conditions for me to win the game. And it's hard to kind of force this, but you can. There's ways to do it. He got first drop, deployed the gore, whatever they're called,
Goremongers, yeah.
goremongers. But I went first, which was very important because I would have been in a lot of trouble if I hadn't. And because he's playing World Eaters, I guess he thought he would be the aggressive one. And he was mistaken. So I turn 1 kill the goremongers, a rhino, 10 corn berserkers, and Khan. And he was like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Yeah, we're just in your face, baby." And it was one of those moments where like he could connect a charge with his entire army, and I was like, "I won't mind." So he did. He just charged everything. He has a really great write-up on this on his YouTube. I don't know how you'd find it, but I guess and then maybe look up his name, Sandex World Eaters LGT or something. It's really cool. And we have this amazing moment where he's charged these 20. This is turn 1, by the way. 20 berserkers in my deployment zone, and he needs a 5 on the charge, and he rolls a 5. But a 5 is the worst possible outcome. He needs a bigger number to be able to pile in. So he has a free reroll. So he's like, if I re-roll this and roll below a 5, I lose the game. I was like, yes, you do. But then I was thinking, actually, for my win condition, I have to have re-roll hits. So he doesn't realize that if he fails the charge, I actually don't kill the unit. He's actually fine. Anyway, he re-rolls the charge into a 5 again. And I was like, everyone's happy, I guess. He makes the charge. He clears every screening unit in my army. He kills the devilfish, re-roll hits, tags the broadsides, tags the ion hammerhead, tags the pathfinders that fell back. And we have this really weird moment where the game's been, it's been quite a complicated turn 1 and turn 2, and I'm going through my turn 2, not really worrying about the berserkers. And Alex Fowler comes over, who's a very good player.
Yeah.
And he knows Sam, and they're chatting away. And Alex is like, "Yeah, man, but you are about to see what the missile sides do to the corn berserkers." And Sam was like, "What do you mean?" And although he knew, and they were modeled that way, and it was like he hadn't properly clocked the number of shots from this unit, which was very funny. So not for him. So he knows on the back foot. Some risks are taken, but fundamentally, I just kill everything. I kill all the units that have Calm Eye secure. I kill the Pathfinder's guiding combat with the pistols. I just don't care. So I just broadsides pick up like 13 of them, and it doesn't matter at that point. It's neutered. The 2 hammerheads came in and connected into another unit, made sure it couldn't blood surge by being 9.1 inches away. But if you come in from reserve, you have to be. They got plus AP. Riptides pick up everything else, and that's essentially that was the game. And it was kind of weird relief because I was like, oh, round 5 of LGT and I won on turn 2. But it was quite cool because I hadn't realized I'd won. He had, and it was a really interesting moment where he was like, I have nothing I can do, so I'm gonna he rapid ingress some exalted 8-bound in front of a Riptide because he saw it was his only way path to victory, which is amazing because I hadn't seen it. It was really something. Obviously, I picked them up with a Riptide, which he was very sad about because they res models. So his calculation was, I'll lose 2, res 1, keep getting to play. I did pick up all 3, which he was sad about. But so that was an amazing insight from him and really something impressive. But yeah, that in the end, teching for World Eaters paid off. God bless.
Yes, I know. Me and you were also teching for World Eaters, and then it sounds like Sam was the closest World Eaters to actually get any further because there was no World Eaters in the cut. But those 3 missile sites, oh boy, with 4 rolls to hit and twin linked, get wrecked.
Unbelievably satisfying.
So good, solid victory. Obviously, I will give you hats off. Like your path to victory was tough. Yeah, it was.
It was hard, actually.
Really
I was
hard.
expecting something chill, to be honest.
Yeah. No chill for Will. No chill for Will. Go straight in. So you made it 5-0, and obviously then you're just like pinching yourself, thinking, "Oh, I've done it. Have I? Have I done it? Yeah, cool."
Yes. So that was really weird because obviously you'd beaten Mark.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I wonder how your game's gone because I guess in the backup, I kind of figured you would at least go 4-1.
Yeah.
And then you played into Mark. And I thought this might be your loss because Raven Guard was so good.
Yeah.
And then I won my round 4, but it took me ages to find out. And then we got to round 5, and obviously I was like, I don't know what Space Wolves do. But I was like, I'm pretty sure you don't lose this unless he goes on the line, goes first and sends.
It's almost like you know exactly what the Space Wolves should have done, but didn't do.
Yes.
So my round five, honestly, I cannot recommend this player enough. What an absolute hero, Andrew White. I've never heard of him before, and I said, "Hey man," and he was like, "I think I know your face. You won't know mine. I don't know what I'm doing here. It's my
What?
first.
I
It's
had,
my." He was
I
like,
had rank 1 world
he
eaters.
basically turned around and said, "I don't know what I'm doing here. It's my first tournament, right?" And I'm there going, I said, "Stop." I said, "Stop. It's your first tournament, and it happens to
What?
be the largest event in the world, and you're 4-0. So
Bruh.
bring it in, brother. Let's go." But inevitably, his list with Space Wolves was a good matchup for me.
Bruv.
He was running the Saga of the Beast Slayer, not Gladius, Saga of the Beast. So massive points for like manhood here. He was running Arjak Rockfist with Terminator, a 5-man Terminator, Bjorn the Fell-Handed for CP, Logan Grimnar, Ragnar Blackmane, Wolfguard Battle Leader, 10 Bloodclaws, 5 Fenris and Wolves, Infiltrator, Repex, Scout Squad, 6 Thunderwolves, 3 Thunderwolves, 6 Head Takers, 5 Terminators, and 10 Wolfen. Now, as much as the matchup looks positive for me, there's two crucial things that could have absolutely ruined my game. Turn 1. He can bring in a unit turn 1 because of Logan Grimnar, which also means that he has two options. He has a big 6-man Thunderwolf cavalry in reserve and 5 Terminators with Arjak. So if I'm not careful, and we're playing take and hold basic 40k search and destroy, there is a spot here and then a spot up here that he could literally go, "I'm going to insult you, and I'm going right here, and I'm going to yeet." And then if he deploys everything on the line and yeets his entire army, plus the turn 1 pressure, I could be fighting my way out of my deployment zone for at least 2 or 3 turns, which is a problem on take and hold, because then he can just put stuff on objectives and be getting primary. So what I did here was I did my normal play of, I think I went, let me just double check. I want to know if I went first or second. LGT, I ended up going second. So again, when I realised his deployment that wasn't as aggressive as it should be, I was like, he's not going to pick up on this, and he didn't. But then what I did was I had my -2 to charge Pathfinders on one flank to say, if you want, you're going to be -2. It ain't happening unless you boxcars a charge or 11-inch charge, but it could happen. I've seen crazier things happen at tournaments. And then on the other side, I was just like, again, you know, I come and get some Pathfinders, I'll destroy them. So he ended up just deep striking turn 1 his Terminators on his expansion just to get some dudes on there and sit there. And I was like, I can see the logic, but I think it's a waste. And then from then, I think the pivotal point that I changed in my game plan was pointing guns at empty spaces. So I was like, I had a Sunforge team behind the Pathfinder team and my Plasma Uppy Downer unit pointing at an invisible space, being like, "Oh, by the way, if you come here, rapid ingress, I'm going to shoot you." And then on the other side, I pushed out my Pathfinders to push his rapid ingress back, and then had the missile fire knives pointing at empty spaces, going, "And if you come here, I'm going to shoot you," which inevitably took that power play away from him. And then everything
Yep.
else was just screen, screen, shoot, kill, screen, shoot, kill. And he was like, "Man, I'm learning so much, but this is demoralizing. I just can't do anything." I'm there going, "Unfortunately, it's because I've got 50 infantry." And he was like, "I'll answer that next part." And I went, "What?" He was like, "You've got too many suits." Because at some point, he looked and was like, that's on the board, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, God, that other tray's still in reserve." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "There's too many suits, man. It's too damn high." So it
Very
was like,
good.
"It's too much." And obviously, with that in mind, it inevitably led to a solid victory of 90-62. So we're both 5-0. And I think we
Yes.
met afterwards. And I was like, 5-0? You're like, "Yeah."
Yes.
And then we're like, "Excellent." And then we had that nervous part of being like, "Does that mean we go in the shadow round? I don't know how it works." Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even bothered finding that out because I just assumed not.
Yeah.
But
So we will probably like what we really want to kind of talk about before we open up to like questions for you guys is that there's no point me reviewing your like round 6, because I believe you were into, what did you go into round 6? Was it
I went into Raven Winged like Dark Angels, like Company Hunters or something crazy. Which to be honest was whoever goes first wins,
And you
and I
went
went
first.
first,
And I
and I
saw.
picked up his entire army. And then he went second. He killed 2 units, and I picked up the rest of his army. Terraformed his home with 4 units on it. And we both just knew whoever goes first
Yeah.
wins.
And because it
And
was
it was
Terraform,
very
right?
funny.
It was Terraform,
Yep.
same as round 1 on the UKT pack.
Yep.
And I walked over because, should we say, my game ended sooner. And I looked over and I was like, Will, which one's your deployment? I can't tell. And you were in his deployment.
I genuinely sent every single unit forwards.
Yeah.
And he knew it was coming. We both like knew he had
Yeah.
like turn 1 rapid ingresses, and he could scout 9 with bikes that could advance and charge, and his entire army advanced and shoot shot. And I was like, I'm too tired to play like a grindy game, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna full send, and I won the roll off. God bless the Sisters of Battle. There's the Sister Act dice. Matt Puffett gave it to me, and anyway, rolled that. Boom. First turn, baby,
turn.
let's win. So that was crazy, yeah.
So mine was obviously we're going to talk about like the fatigue that like kicked in here. Like we just played the largest event in the world and we've just gone 5-0. Both of us probably in our back of our minds were thinking I'd be happy with a 4-1, but obviously anything more is a bonus, and I obviously really want to do well. And then we made the shadow cut. So we're like, oh my god, we're absolutely over the moon, we're ecstatic, and then the existential dread kicks in and be like, actually, that was just a warm-up. We've now actually got to play proper 40k into like-minded champions that have also made the cut, and it's time to play more games of 40k. So, looking at the pairings, I went outside for a cigarette just to kind of unwind and obviously kind of like celebrate a little bit in my own head. And then I was looking at the list and I was thinking, okay, so actually, not saying anything bad against like the players like Alexander Sacco, Liam VSL, and all the names in there are like absolute monsters. Like this is going to be proper competitive 40k at the highest of caliber, highest sportsmanship. It's going to be exciting. But from a list perspective, I was feeling quite comfortable. There was only like a couple, and yours was included, especially because of Mont'ka versus RETALIATION. We played that game before, but in the past, but it's a completely different ball game, and obviously with missions. And also, I wasn't really wanting to go into Innis's stupid Stormlands fly, shoot, kill. And I walk over to the area, thinking, okay, the pairings are up. Damn, Innis. So I'm going to briefly talk about this game and summarize it. My only win condition against this is to deploy absolutely everything that I've got on the line. I have 1 unit in reserve, aka Farsight and Sunforge, just to keep him honest. Deploy everything on the line, hope to go first, rush him with everything, terraform everything, and have a bloodbath and call it a day by turns 2 or 3. Now, that is hindsight, and me and Innis talked afterwards, and when I said, so I assume you know about my army, and he went, yeah, I've just literally played one of your students in round 5 with the same list, and I was like, oh, so I don't need to run through everything, perfect. So he'd already got a warm-up into one of my students, and basically, he went first on Terraform. He was able, that Storm Raven can go crazy places, and it was just so annoying. So Innes was saying to me, like, you were doing really well in terms of, like, knowing what was coming and planning for it, and I've got to give you credit where credit's due. You were doing a good job of that, but inevitably, I can just full send. And when I do that, I control the board state, and you'll just lose too much. And if I try to hide a little bit, and that was my downfall. So at this point, I had, like, a return, my turn 1, and I managed to do something, but it wasn't enough. So at that point, I was like, I just like walked away. People were like coming over and watching. And I was just like, I'm cooked, bro. I'm cooked. And then I walked off and I turned around to this and said, okay, I'm just gonna do this turn. I'm gonna figure out a few things, and if there's something to be figured out, cool. Otherwise, good. GG. You've got this. And Innis was just like, I don't know, give me a big hug, and he was like, no. And then we talked about it afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I think that is literally the only win condition. Is just going first, because you'd have been able to send everything. You'd have been able to send 2 Cold Stars and Sunforge at my Storm Raven. Yeah, you'd have lost those 2 units, but I'm down a Storm Raven. I'm fighting in my own area of the board. You've got some time to kind of like compose your pieces and your trading and your chaff, and I felt pretty good because I had 50 infantry. Turns out, no, I had to lose 30 like in turn 1 just to try and have a chance. So the score looks a bit dodgy, 100 to 50, but at that point, I said to Innes, look, you've got more games ahead of you. It's a shadow round. It doesn't matter. Let's just call it. And we went through the motions. And he cheekily went, 100 to 30? I went, come on, man. And he was like, all right, 100 to 50. And I was like, all right, just so you can get the 20-0. So it was just done. So that ended my LGT journey, but it was such a fantastic run, and I was over the moon. So let's land on your thought process and going into Liam VSL on stream. For those of you who want to watch it, it was on. It was on the UKTC one. Yeah, UKTC one.
Yeah.
So tell us, how are you feeling going into that? Excited,
Yeah.
nervous, tired?
So fundamentally, the goal has been achieved, which was at least a 4-1. And then, obviously, it would be lovely to have placed higher than you for the rank 1 UKTC, and also Tony, and also Ross, which had happened because Tony went 3-2, and then you obviously lost to Innes. So I was kind of done, really. I was very happy to go home. I couldn't play the Monday, so I was like, cool. And it was shattered at that point. It was 7:30. And then the pairings come up, and it's Liam, and he's like, he pronounces Tao in this funny way. We've played before him and I a few times, twice on TTS, which he remembered, which surprised me because obviously I would remember him, but he would remember. He remembered the game perfectly, which I was like, oh god, oh god, this man. So yeah, I then saw Lewis Smith, who is a very good Tau player and a teammate of him, giving him a full rundown of how I would win the game on the way there, and I was like, cool. And then I witnessed Boris, Michev, and Brian Seep. They rolled off for their pairing to see who won.
That was funny.
They literally rolled a d6 in front of, and I was like, "This is sick. This is so funny." At the top cut, there's like 20 people left. Really cool vibes. I definitely wasn't one of them. One day I would love to be, but I definitely was the odd guy out. And then playing Liam, we arrive at the table. Clock's already on, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, yep, we got to get going. I was like, "Jesus." Liam kind of runs through veterans of the Long War, whatever that does. I sort of don't really care because I kind of don't think I've won, and I'm knackered and so on. So yeah, mindset wise, it was really weird. Like I'm like really far from being defeatist. But there comes a time when you are just a bit like, cool. Like, and I couldn't concede because I wanted the placings.
Yeah.
I wanted to get some points to like. My goal was top 10 at that point. I was like, this would be because I think there's like 12 people. Or 16, I guess, or something, whatever it is. So I thought it'd be so cool to be top 10. So I was like, I need to get some good points here. And I need to go first, I need to deploy it, blah, blah, blah. And so that was my thinking. But like, yeah, with the stream on and all of that stuff, it was a bit just like, the stream was fine. I worked in esports for a really long time, so I'm really used to being on camera and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I understood his list because it's actually really simple, which is really nice. Like the reactive move is horrible, but like, conceptually it's very simple. So yeah, so that was the mindset going into it, really. I was kind of like, yeah, sadly a bit checked out, but not in a bad way, just in a kind of way that was like, I'm super just happy to be here. There comes a point where you want to give it a good go because you don't want to like embarrass yourself, or like you then suddenly think to yourself, what if I did win? But then I was like, well, if I did win, I'd drop, which is like a real, like, yeah, really awkward. So yeah, that was really. That was the mindset going into it.
Well, you had a lot of encouraging support from obviously our Discord. Yes. Everyone was like, "Will's on stream, it's really Liam." And obviously, I was there saying, "Do you want any water?
Yeah.
Do you want any water?"
Yeah, thank you for that. My water boy. Thank you.
No, man.
That was my nickname in esports, was water boy. So
water boy. So basically, yeah, you're going against the Giants, but I think we can critically analyze everything. But I think at that point, you've already highlighted perfectly. You were psyched to be there. The complications of making the shadow round is very complex because when you do, you have to commit. Like, you can't just go, for example, if I knew, because I was flying out to LVO on Monday, and if, for example, I go all the way, I have to rebook my flights. But if I know that I'm going to drop, I'd have to drop to give someone else an opportunity in the shadow to go into the shadow round. So you have to commit. And we've already played 5 rounds, right? So that's 15 hours of 40k. And then you've got 2 more, potentially 5 more. And so then that's 30 hours of 40k in 3 days. And to stay on, like, point in terms of tactically, your exhaustion levels, everything. And then on top of that, people do have to go home. And obviously, you were staying with a friend, but then you had to book extra hotel for that night if you did, and then the travel for back, and then taking Monday off work. So it's really complex, and I think I'd like to see something different happen for the finals. Like, there was talks of in the future possibly going on a different weekend down at Bad Moon Cafe. There were some theories going on around how they could change it, but I don't know if anything will come of that. It's just talk. But genuinely, that game was, what, 100 to 78 or something, but obviously not really a proper, like, I suppose, true reflection, because at some point you just called it, right?
Yeah, so I called it, so he went first, and I called it after his turn 3, I think. It's, and it was, it was done. I played worse than him, fundamentally. And what is really cool is that, I could have beaten him.
Yeah.
I have beaten Liam before, in the past, so like that's like fantastic. Like, you realize these like gods can bleed kind of thing, which is absolutely amazing. But ultimately, I played relatively poor. I played differently to how I played all of the previous 6 games, which is kind of annoying, a little bit annoying. But yeah, I was happy to be there. We called it. We called the game, and I was happy to concede and just like leave the points where they were, because he doesn't need points, right? Because it's on wins for him, and I didn't really need it either. But one of the judges did ask us to like play the game out. So we talked the game out, and then he was like, "No, you need to like actually move the models." And I was like, "Okay." So I got a very generous 78, which like kind of comes from like Liam was like, well, I just don't need to kill your stuff, so I just won't bother, which means that you can, kill something here and get 5 or whatever. But yeah, fundamentally that was that. But yeah, there's loads of like lessons that can be learned from it, I guess. But like ultimately, I wouldn't play that game in the same way if I played it again at all.
There's the other thing as well to factor in, is that it's very easy to like watch after the fact and go, oh, should have done X, Y, and Z, and it's easy to be a backseat driver. But if you, for example, played that game round 1 rather than round 7, right, or around, it's completely different because you're not knackered. You've got your brain fully functioning. So I think this is something that when people are watching on stream and thinking, oh, why is like, no one might have the guts to say, why is Liam doing this? But for example, there's 2 moments.
Why am I doing something?
There's 2 moments, right? There's 2 moments that the internet might be like, question mark. Number 1 could be, why has Liam put 10 warp talons in that building? Will's going to pick them up. And then the other thing is like, why has Will put those 3 broadsides back there? They're not doing anything. But you're not just... seven rounds, man. Like, the things just sometimes just don't connect. They you might think of them, but they just don't connect. And I think it's easy for people to say why when they're not in that headspace of like, you've just played 6 rounds of 40k and now you're going on stream. And
it's also like semi-tactical, right? So like Liam, for example, knew that I would have to advance my crew forward to screen, which means he would have reacted behind the wall. But I didn't do it, which means he hasn't reacted and he hasn't considered what happens if I don't, which is how I got that line. And the same with the broadsides. Like I didn't think he would suicide Cypher and the rest of the warp talons into me, to not tag the broadsides who would shoot out of it, but to actually tag everything else and position in such a way the broadsides couldn't leave and stuff. It's like stuff like that where like you have an idea and you kind of don't you think about most of the eventualities and you miss out like the 1 or 2 that actually play out, and that's like definitely fatigue, and it works to him as well. Like
exactly.
I'm sure he would look back on that and say that wasn't his best game of Warhammer, and in fact he nearly lost the game because he didn't realize coming in from reserves and a line down, and he looked at me and he was like, did you see that line? I was like, I did actually. And he was like, damn. He was like, whoa, that would have been it. Like, yeah.
Well, there's a combination. There's a combination of a couple of things that like shoulda, coulda, woulda. And like I was, when I only watched like the full game like the other evening, I was like, your Riptides when you had them deployed to scout forward, in behavior patterns scattered back, but actually one predator, you're like, okay, cool, scout with them forward.
Yes.
And if you'd had 3 broadsides, for example, in reserve, you could have then rapid ingress them here, and then that chosen brick is dead. But this is all easy to reflect on afterwards, but in terms of you don't know if you're going first or second, there's so many other factors in, and when you align the stars of if you manage to say do that, kill the warp talons or leave them down to 2, the broadsides come in, it's a completely different game. But then if Liam didn't put the warp talons out there, then it's different, right? But at the end of the day,
I think if he doesn't do the warp talon thing, I lose a lot harder.
Yeah.
Which is also it. Like, he made the first mistake of the game, and in theory, I should have capitalized. But if he just doesn't do that, I don't really know how I stop that unit.
Yeah.
It just cleaves my army over and over again. I have no screens by turn 2. So, but yeah.
I've got a cheeky question for you.
Go on.
And it almost seems like I'm setting you up. If Pathfinders have guided into warp talons and you shoot SMS into warp talons, do they get lethals?
I think they do, but I think I rolled like 2 6s.
Yeah,
and he had
I know.
2
There was
warp
like
talons
one
left.
or
So I
two
don't think,
sixes.
I actually don't even know if I did roll 6s, but yes, they do get lethals.
Yeah.
I was thinking about I knew it ignored cover, but I just didn't really. I just didn't really
that was
think
just
about
a
it,
cheeky dig there. I had to get one in.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
honestly,
There's a lot of that, to be fair. Little things. But...
you finished 10th, so you made your top 10. I finished 20th, and we absolutely did the Lord's work for the greater good. And there was many others that attended that also did phenomenal. There was like 4-1s from Crew Hunting Pack. There was Brett Carter. There was lots of other things going on. And genuinely, it's a very good time for Tau players. I think the last stat check data I looked at has just been updated the other day. We are sitting at 52%. And Rhett Carter is looking extremely strong. Mont'ka, Kion around the middle. Auxiliary doing really well. Kroot doing around the middle. I think Kroot's bang on 50%. And then EPC still the lowest, but it's still doing better than it was before. Fantastic place. Get used to it while we can, because I will say that I think a few points may go up. I don't think it's going to be drastic, but I think some sensible changes will be made in the future. Riptide's maybe going from 190 to a little bit more, I would suspect. But we'll have to wait and see. But overall, super happy. We've done a great performance, and I think now it would be great. I've not seen any questions come in chat. Maybe they've just been sitting, listening, enjoying us talk. But please, guys, get the questions in. I'm going to just kick off while people have time to put in the chat. What's next for you, Will, in terms of what's your goal for next season?
Yeah, so I think when I got into 40k, the goal was, once I realized like rankings existed and so on, I thought that I would love to get rank 1 Tau.
Yeah.
That was like absolutely a goal. I've tried for it last year and failed miserably. I can't remember where I went. I was like 5th or something, like, that I was just not satisfied with at all, and then got it this year. And now I'm actually unsure. It's quite hard. I'm not sure what exactly I want from 40k specifically. Like, defending rank 1 sounds really cool, but like not necessarily whatever. I would love to play for England. I don't know what this year looks like, but I know that if I spent the next year building that repertoire, then I would be in a much better... I have applied this year, but I would be in a much better place next year, where I'm not just like a Tau 1 trick that can only play ranged armies or fast gun goes good. So I'm not sure. I really enjoy playing on TTS, like loads of random armies. I was forced to play Sisters for teams. I played Ironstorm for teams once as well. CSM's really fun. So there's lots of armies for me that I'm considering dabbling in. But the problem is that, and I'm sure you have this too, which is like if I go to the next, like, say, 2 or 3 events as Space Marines, I like kneecap myself getting rank 1 Tau, because, and this is what happened this year, which was so rough, which is I think my results in the first 3 months when Tau were good weren't very good, except for one, just Coventry, and I then no one did well on Tau for 6 months.
Yeah.
But of course, that only benefits whoever's in the lead. In the same way, for example, going into Tau being buffed in the most recent slate, I was in the lead. And if Tau had been nerfed, imagine, we would have both gone 3-2 at LGT, and it would have been like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I don't go for rank 1 Tau in the next 3 months and like try and get some wins, it's kind of doomed for the year. So it's a pretty complicated position I feel in, but I'm also not hyper excited to play Tau, I guess, right this second. Like I feel like I've kind of like achieved that goal. I haven't really formulated what would be next for me, so I don't know to be honest. We shall see.
So I think like in terms of like goals, like I am very much like a goal oriented person at the end of the day, but
Yeah.
competitive by spirit and nature. But I always like looking at that like what 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 will I achieve with this goal that I haven't
Yes.
already achieved, right? And obviously I have held on to top spots for many years, and that's been my thing and my claim to fame.
Yes.
But a development as a player is just more than a number one or a ranking at the end of the day. It's how can I
Yes.
improve as a player, and part of that, and it sounds from your journey, is experimenting, dabbling in a few other armies just to kind of have a bit of a palate cleanser that you've mentioned before to me, and then just trying out some new things to get a bigger grasp of the game and improve overall as a player. And I quite like looking at global rankings for this rather than just specific faction ones. And I think one thing that's really helped me, and it's something that I am lucky enough to be able to do as part of my job, is travel.
Mhm.
And what I've said to myself is I want to go to more international events. And I'm going to the French Super Major coming up this weekend. And I would love to see you come to one of these
Ha!
events, like, and I think that when you talk
Sure.
about like the LGT and going against these foreign players that are obviously very focused on WTC, and you'll get a lot of reps into these players on your TTS try hard server, which guys, if you're not a part of, please join it. I'll send a link out and you can just join it. Loads of TTS games happen, a really good community, and Will's a part of it. And obviously, you can get some reps and games into phenomenal players. But I think going to international events will open up new experiences, and I do think that the UKTC, as great as it is, puts us into a little bit of a stale kind of position sometimes. It's the same terrain, same people, kind of same meta, and broadening to go to, say, US events or European events is great. And you mentioned about the Team England process, and I 100% agree. Like, you're looking in terms of, I'm good now, but I want to be better and in a better position next year.
Yes.
And I think when you, with the Team England Discord at the moment, there's a big emphasis on getting newer breed or new generation of players into this system to then go and take part in things like Alpine Cup or Pyra or loads of international events, mainly in Europe, to practice and get exposure to like massive teams. Like, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Team France, who've won WTC back to back. They've got a
Yeah.
massive tournament scene, and Zorro's in the chat here, and Madaseek, and these people are going to the French Super Major, and I'm joining them this time to really get a new, fresh experience. So I think, if you can, and I know obviously life is a thing, but I would honestly
Mm.
love to see you at some of these events as well, because, yeah, mate, tell me, you're good enough to take some names and get the crown, someone, so I'd love to see you there.
Thanks.
But for me,
Yeah.
I think obviously, inevitably, it's how can I improve as a player, and the only thing that I can do is increase my exposure to better players and improve that way. Because Tau,
Yeah.
inside out, know it. I know I've got a Votan army that's almost built, but it's practically Tau, but just slower. It's got a couple of hammers in there. But like
Yeah,
you,
it's Tau with rampages that can go through walls.
pretty much, right? So I think for me, like that's probably where I'm going to do. Experiment with a few other armies like yourself. Obviously, I'll always be focused on Tau. It's my bread and butter. It's my one love. And I think next season's going to be really exciting. And I think we're going to do it all again, Will. We're going to have to do it all again. And
Yes.
see you next LGT when we're in the shadow round again. Or we might sit on
Yeah.
the 3-2 table going, what happened?
What happened? What went wrong? Yeah.
What went wrong?
Yeah. It is also something to be said, which is obviously it's improving as a player, but melee. It is worth saying because as a Tau one trick, I never really appreciated melee.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fight phase. And I had the pleasure of watching my friend Josh play against Chris Radford in the shadow round of like Bristol or something like that. And they're both like melee one tricks. Like, and I don't think Chris would mind me saying this either, but like they're just both love it. It was Blood Angels versus Chaos Cult. And watching those two people play melee with like fights first activations, heroic intervention, interrupts was like art. And I watched it and I was like, I have no idea, like, you know, about this. It's just not something I've ever done. I played Orcs Cadre, sure, but like there's an amazing degree of skill expression there, which is really cool. So there is something to be said for that, and it's something that we really are missing, and it's just a bit like of a bummer that. But anyway, even just like a few melee units with whatever, like a single shaper that goes through. But yeah, so yeah, there's something to be said for that, and like learning that part of the game, and it really is quite complicated because you have so many more elements to the fight phase with fight on death, interrupts, fights first, etc. Um, heroic intervention, all these kind of things, which is quite cool. So there is something to be said for learning that. But yeah, the tower player, you simply don't need to know it. Like someone says, my unit has fights first. I literally, I'm like, wish you hadn't told me. I couldn't care less. Like, because I've never concerned myself with that word. I've never concerned myself with fight on death. They're like, oh, I have a fight on death on a 4-up. Oh, I don't care. I don't care.
See, I joke, and I'm like, oh, you got fight on death. Well, be careful. I've got a dude with a sword.
Yeah, it's just never happened, So it's quite an interesting thing. But yeah. Anyway, it's quite also difficult, like solving problems in a different way, which is cool. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
So a lot of the chat has basically just said like really great review. They've enjoyed their time listening us to talk. But is there no questions for the people that are left? Yeah. If there's no questions, we can move on to do final closing remarks. But I'm sure a couple of questions might come in. I think the one question that I suppose I'm going to ask both myself and you is like advice to give to Tau players out there. Specifically, we know that Tau are good now, and obviously it's going to bring a lot of people back into playing Tau, whether they've always been a Tau player and they just so happen to bring out the Triptide because it's powerful, or maybe they've lost a bit of faith because previously we have been down in the dumpster, and now that we've got some sort of new life, they're like, oh, I want to get back into it. So what would your advice be to Tau players out there, both new and getting... Well, let's just focus on the new Tau players. What would be your advice to them going into Tau now?
Work on the fundamentals of the army and the game. Don't stress about what lists certain people are having good results in. I say that from people messaging me being like, your list is this, how does it do this? And I'm like, I don't know, it's all right. I would absolutely not say that anyone should copy my LGT list. I don't think it's a winning list. I just think it did well. So chill out on the list front. And just like, and not to me, but I mean like, it's like, I just don't. Yeah, I think people get results with lists, and then people go, that must be the best list. I think it's a mistake. So work on the fundamentals, and don't be afraid to send some units in and get a bit aggressive. Aggressively screen, like instead of screening your back, screen in their face, that kind of thing. Like work on these fundamentals, and you will find improvement. And also dabble. Like I was a Callion player forever, played Retcads, came 3rd or 5th or something at Coventry 3-day, and then was like, sod it, I'm going to play Orcs Cadre, I'm going to play Mont'ka, and playing them has improved me playing and would improve me playing Callion. So take a little leap of faith. My friend Stan was the one who pushed me onto Retcad that first time and was like, if you aren't going to do it now, when will you? And I was like, in which case?
Somebody else pushed you to Retcad, not me. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, so for Coventry 3-day, Callion was good, Retcad was good, and I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to play Callion because I knew it. And Stan was just like, yeah, but you have to break the ice at some point. You have to like try something different.
Yeah.
And it was my confidence playing Retcads randomly at Coventry after 4 practice games and then winning 6 games, drawing 1, winning 1, coming 5th. That meant that I could do the same with Mont'ka almost 10 months later at LGT, where after 6 games or however many I played practice, 10 maybe at most, probably I think 10 games of Mont'ka ever, 6 practice games with that list or whatever it was, to be able to be like, just trust the process. So that's something else there.
Yeah. I think it's wise words, man, and rather than just repeating what you said, I think there's some key kind of information there. Fundamentals is my jam, and obviously this is the bit where I just give a little bit of a plug, but also like talk real. I think something that you touched on there was massively important. Have a dabble, and we are very, 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 I repeat, very lucky. We have got an army that has all detachments doing extremely well, even EPC, because if you look at the US data, EPC is at 60% win rate. Okay, cool. like, we have flexibility across all of our detachments. The only thing that we are missing a little bit is obviously combat that can go through walls, but we have auxiliary that can offer you expression and also crew as well. So we're in a great place. So you've got a detachment for all flavors. Focus on the fundamentals, like Will said, and for me, is just always reflect on what your natural play style is when you're playing 40k. And there's plenty of armies out there that can help you develop that. But then on the counter side, you also need to work on the things that maybe you're not so good at. And if that is like understanding combat, then you know what? Play a combat army. I've dabbled with like Blood Angels in the past, Space Wolves, and proper kind of combat armies, and just gone, oh, this is how it works. And then it's made me a better Tau player. And then obviously when I'm, playing Tau, it will make me a better melee player because I'll understand firing lanes and shooting profiles, etc., etc. So I think for me, I've always kind of like solidly looked at, if I'm a naturally aggressive player, I need to work on being defensive, or if I'm now developing as a more defensive player, I still need to be in tune with my aggression side, because the meta either goes favors defensive or favors aggression, and you need to be able to play both. It's almost like the Patient Hunter and the Fist of Mont'ka. We've got it built into our actual like
Elegant.
war philosophy, so learn it, play it, practice, enjoy it. And obviously, if you do want to know a little bit more, we've got a couple of things to mention here. One, obviously, join the Puretide Program. Links are in the description below. I have like tailored packages for all budgets. Pathfinder gets you access to a demonstration a month. Also gives you access to like general chat, separate Discord, and also the new faction focus stuff. So one thing that I loved in the feedback across the events and within the Discord members here was that it's an amazing tool. I can load up, go onto faction focus. I'm playing Raven Guard. I don't know what it does. Load it up. It's got your SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and a basic battle plan to give you confidence at the tabletop to be able to at least know what it does and how to combat it. And that's something that's available from Pathfinder. Shas'ui gives you list building calls every 2 weeks, speaking of which one is happening 6 minutes ago, but we'll jump onto that after this call. I'm going to be sweatshopping hard this evening. And then obviously Shas'ui will give you access to meta reviews, tournament talk, and also like War Council, which is like a round table thing where we get together and talk about our performances and how we can improve and what barriers we're facing. So I've got it all. You just need to click on the button below and join. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. Now, Will obviously is a formidable Tau general, and obviously he exists in our Discord as well, so you can chat to Will. But also, if you want to join the Try Hard Wargaming, you can obviously maybe just organise games against Will. I'm sure he's looking for practice. And then we talked, he doesn't have any kind of Patreon or anything set up at the moment, but we may see a few things from him in the upcoming future, and he will obviously, when he creates something like this, if he's going to do something, I will announce it within our Discord. And obviously you know how to reach Will in the Try Hard or in the Puretide Program Discord. Send him a wee message and I'm sure he will be happy to help. So everybody in the chat, I know people have jumped in and out. Have you enjoyed this? Has this been something that's been really useful for you? If not, sorry. If so, it was great. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Zorro, for your kind comments. And I expected a few more questions, but obviously people have just been, maybe we've covered it all. Maybe we've given all the information that they needed.
It is true.
Yeah, so maybe we've done a really good job. And Zorro also loved to see Will progress. Very impressed. So, yeah, beautiful. Right, Will, thank you so much for taking time out and joining. Pal. This is obviously wouldn't have been a success without you. And closing remarks, thank you all. And I wish you all a very good day or evening, depending on where you're in the world. Take care, everyone, and thank you very much.